Each one is really its own individual piece of artwork, but as a collection makes up a whole. It's made up of 400 butterflies. I went into different national parks around the country and photographed in their collections. So I spent a month originally at the Grand Canyon as an artist in residence. The National Park Service has this amazing artist in residence program. And instead of photographing at the Grand Canyon, I went into the museum collections as a way to understand the place from a different perspective. I felt like that conversation of photography in terms of documentation had been done, and I was more interested in the place and how to understand it. So they have incredible collections of natural history specimens and plants that really document a place over time. So I went in there and I photographed in those collections, and then turned those into negatives, and then used hand-coated the cyanotype liquid, which is an iron-based liquid that was invented in 1842 by a scientist, and then expose those to UV light. And then once those are exposed, they get washed, which also fixes them so they're permanent images, and then I hand cut each one. I'm interested in the intersection of science and art, and a way to have a conversation about some of the harder things to talk about, like climate change, environmental issues, and using artwork to address some of those. So for example, with these, the monarchs are represented in this swarm here, which are deeply affected by environmental change. And so asking people to participate in something that's beautiful and still have a conversation about what's happening in the world. One of the things that I'm interested in is this combination of 19th century photographic processes and digital technology. And so with these, I'm using specimens that are very old and photographing with a digital camera, but then turning around and printing these with a historical process. And so part of that interest is about looking at history, understanding history, what can we learn from it, both from a scientific perspective, but also from a photographic perspective. So including the old and bringing that into the new, into a contemporary piece of art. This piece lives really well here for a number of reasons. One, the color being this rich blue, similar to Duke blue. And two, it's a way to anchor someone in a space. So people can see these butterflies coming down the hallway. It's a way to kind of guide people through the space. And I think also there's a metaphor in the butterflies that feels uplifting, and people are drawn to them. So even in just the installation, having people walk by and saying, oh, what beautiful, I love butterflies, they're so beautiful. So I think that, coupled with all of those other things, makes it a really beautiful kind of piece to have in the hospital. On many levels, it's hard to know how someone will react to a piece of artwork, and that's why you put it into the world, because what means something to one person might mean something totally different based on our individual experiences. But I do think that butterflies are, like I said, uplifting, and they have there's something freeing about them, and they're also really temporary. So hopefully this is a place that is temporary for people to come to, and a place of healing, but that at some point you leave here and healthy. So I think there's a sort of multitude of layers of how you can read the symbolism with the butterflies. One of the things that I believe in is that art can be transformative and healing, and so any art in a hospital is really incredible. So to have contemporary art at the hospital, I think, is really a beautiful statement in terms of thinking about healing.